Hello and Merry Christmas. Here is my video going through a pattern step by step, nice and slow, just for fun. It's okay if you don't get it to begin with. It is just for practice. So round 1 is 6 single crochets in a magic loop. So your magic loop, again, all of these types of things like the magic loop, the different steps, can also be found on the website on the pattern, but here we go. Wrap it around and cross it. You can also have someone else make a magic loop for you if you would like. So you go under, over, grab it, pull it through, and then you grab this one right here, the one closest to your hand. I'm at a funny angle, but you grab this one and you bring it through the loop. Oh, there's a little knot. That's not going to be helpful. Okay. Again, watch different videos on magic loops or magic rings to make that easier. So it's like a ring here. And this is when I pick up my yarn. 6 single crochets into the circle. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now some people like to hold it down where you're supposed to down here. It doesn't work for me, so everyone figures out their own methods. I like this finger actively helping push things on and off. 6. So I keep mine close together there. Remember to take frequent breaks. Your hand muscles can get sore over time, especially being newer. So we take this tail here from the original ring. We start to pull slowly. You don't want to pull it too tight right to begin with to close up that hole. Just lightly close it up. Now you should have 6 spots of working. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this first little spot in the beginning where it's 2 lines that look like the little V, that's the first place we're working into. So for round 2, when you're putting, it says increase times 6. That means in each of these 6 spots, you're putting 2 single crochets. So working over here, see this beginning spot right here underneath these 2 pieces of yarn. So first single crochet, and that starts round 2. Before I put my second single crochet into there, I'm going to get my stitch marker. And mark this first loop we just made. That shows the first loop of round 2. Now I'll go back and pick my yarn back up. And right here where we did the first one, we're going to do a second one. Because it's 2 single crochets into each stitch from the last row. So that was 2 in the first one. Now here is our next V. You get under both of those pieces of yarn and do 2 single crochets in that spot. And into the third spot right there, you do 2 single crochets, and then I'll kind of speed through the rest, but here's number 4, 5. See, I was not paying close attention. I made things a little bit too tight, so now I'm going really loose to loosen them up for future rows. Tension is tricky, that is okay. And the last spot here, number 6, you know that's the last V because this was the first one marked in this round. So this last spot finishes up round 2. 1, 2. So there's 2 in each of them. If you look at the instructions, it says round 2. In the parentheses at the end, it says 12. That means there should be 12 of these little V's all the way around the outside, with this one being the first and this one being the last. And from experience, I know that there are 12, so I'm going to continue. Actually, I'm going to close that hole up a little bit more in the middle now. Okay, round 3, single crochet, increase times 6. So that means single crochet, increase, which just means 2 single crochets. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets. 1 single, 2, all the way around. Increase just means put 2 singles in it. So we're going to take this off, which is marking our first spot. I usually put it in my mouth, but we'll put it there for now. So I kept my thumb marking that first spot. So single crochet. And I usually have it in my mouth because right away we want to go right back and mark the first one we just did. So now we don't have to do a bunch of counting or anything. The rest of it we just know to go all the way around back to that plastic piece. So single, increase, all the way around. So that was our single. That means this next spot, this next V is the increase, which just means 2 singles. Is that the next spot? See, sometimes I have to look close myself. Okay. Which gets easier over time of doing it. So 2 singles in this spot. Pull, pull, pull. Next spot over gets 1 single. Next spot over gets 2 singles. So if you don't end on an increase, if your last stitch isn't a double, then you know you did something wrong. The easiest way to check that you didn't miss one of the stitches going around is at the end. See that round 3 it says you should finish with 18 stitches. So that means by the time I get done with this, if I were to count those little V's on top all the way around, there should be 18. If there's not, just pull the row out all the way back to the stitch marker and try again. But remember that stitch marker is your first single of this row. So we'll see how skilled I am while talking if I'm doing this correct. Single, increase. This is luckily not one that takes a ton of focus for myself. Single, increase. Remember, you're able to change the playback speed. You can do it at half time, quarter time, all of that jazz. Single. So you can slow it down, speed it up, whatever you need. Pause. And this last stitch here will be an increase. So I'm guessing I have 18. I stayed pretty focused, so I don't think I need to go back and count. Again, give your hands a break, keep tension loose so nothing's hurting. So if I were to go back and start counting here and go 1, 2, 3, all the way back here, it'd go 17, 18. So that's round 3. Round 4 is increase, 2 single crochet times 6. So that just means increase in this first one, which just means 2 singles. So 2 singles, and then single, single, because it says 2 single crochets. So 2 singles in the first one, 1 single, 1 single. 2 singles, 1 single, 1 single. 2 singles, 1 single, 1 single, all the way around. That's what it means by increase, 2 singles. Increase, 2 singles. And it shows you how many stitches you should end up with at the end. So we always take out this first one, not in my mouth because I'm busy here doing the video. So this first one, it says increase. So we start with an increase, which means 2 single crochets. 1, and again, I'm going to instantly mark it that that's the start of the round. And then we still have to put that second one in there. 2. So that was our increase, and now it says 2 single crochets. So the next little V over is going to be a single. That was much too tight because I'm trying to record at the same time. Let's pull out extra yarn. Okay, so 2 singles in the first one, then 1 single, then 1 single. So I'll do that slowly for this next one. Here's our next V. 2 singles in the same spot, and then 1 single in the next, and 1 single in the next, all the way around. You can skip through this if you'd like. I'm just going to finish the round off. 2 singles, 1 single, 1 single. Two singles, 1 single, 1 single. Two singles, 1 single, 1 single. Two singles, 1 single, 1 single. And that brings me all the way back around to the final stitch, which is beautiful because that's where it should end if you did it correctly. If I were to go around and count, there would be 24 of these guys from there all the way to this one. So that was round 4. So for round 5, it's just 24 single crochets. 24 single crochets. The last row told you that you finished with 24 little V's all the way around, so that means you're just doing 1 single crochet in every single little V around the whole thing. So nice and easy, 1 in each. And then again at the end of this one, if you'd like, you can go back and count, make sure you have 24. Got some tips and tricks while I'm going around doing this one. Make sure you're using the stitch marker. It definitely makes it easier to know where you start and end. Like right now, I don't have to count to 24 because I marked the beginning one, so I know I just keep going until I reach it. I know it's tricky, but keep things loose. You don't want your work to be too tight. That's the most common problem. Keep it loose, keep it relaxed. Always have enough yarn pulled out to work with. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to tell which is the front and which is the back of your work. So I'll show you that in a second. Mine's kind of working inside out right now actually, so I need to flip it soon. But you're always going towards the left kind of when you're going around a circle like this. That makes no sense. Ignore that. And if this project is just way too tricky, because it is a little bit, we can do a scarf or something similar. But I thought just for fun, I would have this one recorded for eventually when you're ready for this level. I would not consider it a complete beginner project, but it is fun. So I reached the beginning, so that's where I stopped. This is inside out, so I need to flip it. Once you start kind of building up a structure, you're kind of working around the circle to the left. So that's the shape. So that was round 5. Oh, it actually mentions that. Good, because it's a beginner pattern. The little light bulb mentions flipping it like this. Round 6, 5 single crochets and then an increase. So nice and easy. 5 single crochets and then an increase. So first one that we just took the marker out of, we make the single in it and put the marker right back in to the new stitch. So 5 singles increase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 singles and then an increase. The increase is just putting 2 into the next spot. 1, 2, both back into the exact same spot. Again, if you can see it right here, if I were to supposed to be putting 3 in there, for example, that's the same spot, but 1, 2 are in the same. So now 5 normals, and it seems like, I haven't looked ahead, but I believe this entire pattern is done with single crochets. So there's no confusing like yarn overing or anything extreme, anything different. It's just a different version of single crochets for the entire thing. Uh-oh, I hope that was 5. So now increase. I will know if I miscounted while talking if by the end my very last one is not an increase, then I know something's wrong because it's supposed to end on the same thing every time. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That'd be kind of fun, then you could see me make a mistake and pull it all out if it doesn't end on an increase. 5, increase, just 2 into the same spot. Let's see if we counted correctly or if I did an extra one while talking. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, good. I think I'm good. 5. And there's 1 stitch left for my increase. Beautiful. Multitasking at its finest. Okay, so that was round 6. If you're looking at the pattern, again, it's trying to go the wrong way. Round 7 through round 9 are all 28 single crochets. 7 through 9 is 28 single crochets. So round 7, start the first one. Put the marker in it. So that's stitch 1. And then by 28 single crochets, it just means doing 1 all the way around in every single spot. So you're going to do 1 all the way around till you end here. That's round 7. Same thing, round 8. 1 all the way around, round 8. 1 all the way around, round 9. And then you'll be done through round 9. So I'll meet back up here to start round 10. Okay, here we go, picking up row 10. Just a reminder, this website right here has everything you need for specifics on different types of stitches and techniques. So row 7, 8, and 9, we just went all the way around with 28. Row 10 is 6 single crochets and then an increase. So this will be our first single. We'll take that out from the last row. Our first single goes in that same spot where that marker came out. And now we put a marker right back in to the one we just made. And now I look back at the pattern because I'm OCD and confirmed it said 6 singles and then an increase. So that was single 1, single 2, single 3, single 4, 5, 6, and then an increase just means 2 singles. 1, And that exact spot right there that we did that first one, we do a second one. 2. And continue that all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then an increase, which is 2 single crochets into the same spot. If you do everything correctly, the last stitch in this round will be an increase. It will be the 2 going in the same spot. And if you look in parentheses, you'll see that you should end up with 32 stitches, or 32 of those little V's on the top when you're done with this row. So that's another easy way to check that you did it correctly. You can count them. Or you can just make sure you end on the increase. That's a good sign that you did it correct. Because if you were counting something wrong, you're probably not going to count an entire, like 6 things wrong. You'll be off by like 1 and be ending on the wrong thing. So if you end on the increase, the 2 in the same spot, there's a good shot you did it right. That's when I usually don't go back and count. If I end on a single or something, I'm going to go back and count and see where I went wrong. 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 1 stitch left, which is a good sign. We'll make it our increase. And then round 10 is done. Everything's a little bit too tight with my tension today, probably because I'm recording it. So I'm at a funny angle. That is okay. So 32 stitches around, that's true. Round 11 and 12 are super easy. It says 32 single crochets. So you can even skim through these parts, or I'll see if I can speed them up, whatnot. But it's just 1 single crochet in every spot going around, because it said 32 single crochets. And we ended the last row with the last round, sorry, it's called a round if you're going in a circle. We ended the last round with 32 stitches. So in order to do 32 single crochets, it's just 1 single in every spot going around. So that is for rounds 11 and 12. If you notice, written in the pattern, round 11 through round 12 is 32 singles. So you do 32 singles all the way around back to the marker, and then you switch your marker up to the next row and you do 32 around a second time. So I'll show you that here, even though you might not need it at this point as you're getting the hang of things. Oh, that was a mistake. Didn't make it through both loops nicely, so pulled it out and tried again. It happens. Get that tail out of the way that's in the middle. It's kind of distracting. All the way around. Excuse any background noise over time. There is a dog and 2 children, all attempting to rest, but we will see how long their rest lasts. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. I love crochet. How about you? So again, simple single crochets all the way around. All the way, all the way, all the way, till you get to the red stitch marker. So we're almost there. So that would be round 11 is now done. And then round 12, we'll start right there. Oh, that's a weird way, I gotta throw the marker. Round 12. Is the same thing all the way around. So it is okay if you get a little off on these. If you end up a stitch too big, a stitch too small, it really doesn't matter that much when you're working in the rounds because it's still going to end up round. You might be a little lumpy here or there, but it's not like a scarf where if you lose a stitch, your scarf is shrinking smaller width-wise. It's a little bit more obvious there. I've definitely made mistakes and then just added them back in later when I realized I was supposed to have 28 stitches and I only had 27. I just added an increase somewhere to get back up where I was supposed to be. Yeah, try to do yours better than mine where you aren't fighting to get your hook in because you're distracted and everything's too tight. But it happens. I might actually even recommend a bigger hook. This 4.0 that they recommended, I'm not loving. Maybe a 4.5 or a 5. Obviously it's a little late now to tell you that. So we will keep chugging along how we are. The reason they say the 4.0 probably is because the smaller hook makes these nice tight stitches, which are difficult to work with, but you aren't going to see your stuffing through the holes because they are nice and close together. My voice has a lot of glottal fry today, and I'm not exactly sure why, so excuse that. It's a little dry, I think. So we are coming around to finish up round 12, which is our second round of just doing singles all the way around. And if I was good and dedicated, I would count right now to make sure there's 32, but I trust myself pretty well. So we are gonna head straight into round 13 now, which is 2 singles and then a decrease all the way around. So decrease is the opposite of an increase. Duh, but I need to show you how to do it. So first single, put the marker back in there, go back and check what it says again, even though I know what it says because my brain is a checker. So round 13, 2 singles and a decrease. So single we just did, next single, and next comes the decrease. So instead of putting 2 into 1 to make it an increase, we're going to combine 2 together to make it a decrease. So yarn into the next spot, yarn over, pull it through, but instead of yarning over and pulling through those 2 loops, we're now just going to go straight into the next loop over. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3 on there. 1, 2, 3. So we just combine those 2 together. So again, 2 singles and a decrease. So all the way around we go single, single, and now your decrease, you go in, over, pull through, into the next one, over, pull through, then over and pull through all 3. And now single. So you can see that was part of that. So you have to find the next one that has nothing under it. First single, What is happening? Trying to watch through my phone is a little bit harder than watching my hands. So I'll just go back to washing my hands. Watching, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I got caught up. My yarn's a mess. Good example of when things go wrong. I just want to pull all of that off right now. Okay, go back a couple stitches. So now I need to see where I was. So all of those were decreased together. So this was a single, so I'm on my second single. Okay. Single, decrease. That one has something coming out of it, so we go to this next one over with nothing in it. Single, single, decrease, which is, I'll show slow again. I was just getting us through it. So now that one has stuff coming out of it, so we go to this one. Single, single, decrease. Yarn over, pull through, go into the next one, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all three. So go back, watch those slow, put it into slow-mo, do what you gotta do. I'll show a couple closer, a couple far away, so you can put it into slow-mo and see what's going on. Sounds like some elephants are running around upstairs, so that's fun. Single, single. As long as the elephants aren't crying or screaming, I will call it quiet time. Decrease. So we're getting close to the beginning. Hopefully there's 4 things left. Single, 4 things left. Single, because the decrease takes 2. If there's 3 left, we'd have a problem. Perfect. Decrease. And that was round 13. So round 14 is an easy one. For round 14, you just do 24 single crochets. Again, remember all the playback features that you can slow down, speed up, pause, silence me, so you don't have to listen to my commentary and you can just watch my hands. Whatever works for you. Oh, my belly's talking. 24 singles. So what we're doing now is earlier we were increasing. So we were making it from a little point to become a big circle. Now we're starting to decrease. That's how most patterns work, is you increase first and then you decrease later. So we're starting to work on the decrease. We're on the descend to make it go down to the other side of this creature. So our hole is going to get smaller and smaller now instead of bigger. So you always know you're passing that like halfway point of the body when you start working on decreases, which are fun. Sometimes with decreases, it can get confusing on where you're putting your hook into. And really, it's just staring at them until you figure it out long enough which little V has something in it and which does not. It is a learned skill over time with experience. It did not come natural to me to begin with, and I watched plenty of these type of YouTube videos to see exactly where things were going in and out and all around until it made sense. So please, if this video is not making sense, go backwards, do a chain, do a bunch of singles, do a bunch of doubles, get all the important basics down before starting to work in the rounds. A lot of people like working in the rounds because it makes things like these little critters, but it is definitely harder than in straight lines. Okay, so I just talked my way through round 14, which was all singles. If we wanted to go back, we could count and there'd be 24 of these little V's, but I don't want to. Round 15 says single decrease times 8. Single crochet decrease times 8. So it got too far away from me. I'm going to re-grab it. Single in the first one. Dooba dooba doo. Okay, look back at the pattern. Single crochet decrease times 8. So that means we do a single and then we do a decrease. Is that it? Single crochet decrease times 8. Yep, so that was it. So now the next one goes back to single. This is the next spot that doesn't have anything pulling from it. Single, and then a decrease, which is yarn in, over, pull through, yarn in the next spot, over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. So it's just back and forth between a single and a decrease. So they're decreasing this very quickly. Usually there's a couple more rows to do this, but ignore that. They're just trying to make it a little bit more simple. Decrease. Or they want it to come in quickly for some reason. Single. Oh, I should probably stay on camera. Decrease. Single, decrease, single, decrease. These can be tricky. It is okay to try them over and over and over. Go watch the video on the website of decreases. They might explain it better. They might show it slower. Not sure. Decrease. And I know I'm ending in the right spot because I ended on decrease, which is the last thing written on that round in the pattern. So that was round 15. And then round 16 is 16 single crochets all the way around. So 1, mark it, and then I would count to 16, but I don't really need to because I marked the first one, so just a single and everything until you get back to the stitch marker. Do 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 do, I do ba do. So this isn't the necessarily like easiest yarn to work with, but it's just kind of an everyday average yarn. You can get some specialty beginner yarn if you'd like to, which is more like t-shirt yarn, which is bigger to grab and work with. But not starting with anything fluffy, fuzzy, or dark is really useful. So black yarn is not fun. You cannot see where you're putting your hook in. Super fuzzy blanket yarn, anything with flicks in it, is also not fun. Like your chicken, for example, took some time to figure out exactly where my hook needed to go every time, and to begin with working with it, I had to use a stitch marker in every single little stitch to figure out where my hook needed to go next, because it is just so fluffy, it hides itself. Kind of like Pharaoh. But anyways, anything bright, easy to see, average yarn, or specialty beginner yarn, which we do not have, is good. So that was round 16, and now it says to insert the safety eyes between round 8 and 9 with 6 stitches between them. So here comes your safety eyes. They are 8mm. You take an eye, once you put it through on the other side, you put it this way, the big opening, and you push it so it goes through at least one ridge. I won't do them now because then that wastes this and I'd have to cut it off. But you put this through on the back, just like an earring back. So round 8 to 9-ish. I like to count just like the circles that are showing. I don't know if that's right, but I go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe somewhere about halfway up. Pick an opening, shove an eye in there. You want to get them nice and placed before you reach on the inside and put essentially the earring back on, because once you put it on, it's kind of there for good. I have cut them off before and replaced, but you only want to push it on so it gets past the first ridge. So then you can look at the picture, for example. They say about 6 stitches between. I'm not great at this. I count like lines. And then honestly, just look at pictures and how I'd like it to be. It looks like it needs a little spread out further, maybe somewhere around there. And then you just look at it and judge it. Might be good, might need different, but yeah. I'm not actually going to put the backs on because I don't want to waste them, as I'm not keeping this little critter, but we can pretend the backs are on. So now for round 17, it says decrease times 8. So those might pop off, but that's okay. Decrease times 8. So that very first stitch, we have the marker in, we go in, and then into the next stitch, and then through all 3, and then that's the first one in this round, so you mark it, and then decrease times 8 just means decrease all the way around, because it's the only instruction, so we just do a bunch of decreases. In, over, over all 3. Again, go to the website if you want help figuring out exact decrease in better detail, someone else's hands, whatever, if you want additional support. Decrease. It gets a little awkward at this point. I'm surprised it hasn't told us to stuff it yet, unless I was not paying attention. Oh, yep, it definitely did. Oh well, my bad. It told us to stuff it at the end of the eyeball instruction, but I was not reading thoroughly. Thoroughly? Yeah. Sometimes words don't sound correct to my ears. It's kind of funny as a speech therapist. Okay, so sometimes my yarn just gets too far away from me and I just drop it and re-grab it. Whatever grabbing methods work for you. Luckily, this is a one-person video because there's probably some copyright crap on those overpriced kits. So it is a privately linked video, so no one else will be listening to my rambling except for you. Okay, so I forgot to stuff it earlier. The hole might be too small now, but I'm gonna go ahead and stuff it now. This is normally a toddler's job, but with them resting, I will not tell them I'm stuffing something. Yeah, you're supposed to stuff it before this row, because now the hole's a little bit tight to get stuff into. But you can just pretend I did it before this last row of decreases, because mistakes happen. Oop, and I'm pulling out stitches, my bad. I'm not gonna make it all the way plump because this is just an example one, and I'll probably pull it back apart. So I'll just do some, but you wanna keep going until it's like, you know, decently plump of a figure. I'm not doing all of it. So it looks like I accidentally pulled out a couple stitches. Let's go back and see. Okay, there's a nice spot where it loops up. So we'll just refinish off that row that I just accidentally pulled out. So I remember it was all decreases, so I'll just start in some decreases here until it's done. Because that happens. Okay. So that was round 17. And then you fasten off with a long tail and sew it together. Yeah, I can do that now. I'll show you. Long tail, I take a bean about that. Okay, so you want to pull it like this. Keep pulling until you pull that whole tail out through. Take your marker off. Take your needle out. Take your yarn needle. Load it on. Okay. That first stitch in, see how there's two loops, a front loop and a back loop? You're gonna go only through that front loop. Only through the front of the two loops. All the way around. So this next spot over, only through the front of the two loops. Next spot over, the front of the two loops. And you do that all the way around and it naturally starts pulling everything together. All the way around, and then pretend I finished all the way around. And then when you're done there, you just kind of poke through the middle, come out somewhere on the other side to pull everything kind of through into the center, and then just cut it off here. And then that's your critter. We will be moving on to the beak and wings in the next part. Okay, we're moving on to the beak. Starts with the magic loop. You can look on the website videos for more help on a magic loop. You go under, over, grab. Keep things nice and loose if you can. Grab this first little thing here and pull it through, keeping everything nice and loose if possible. It says 4 single crochets into a magic loop. So now we're gonna do 4 single crochets straight into the middle of that loop. Sorry for the dog toy sounds. He was not able to be outside for the entire video, so single 1, single 2, keeping these nice and loose. Oops. See, I lost my second single. It happens when you're trying to keep it loose. So it's number 2. Number 3. And number 4. All of those going right into the middle of the circle. And then you carefully pull your circle closed, but not too tight is the key. So there should be 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 4 things are working into. And then single crochet increase times 2 means single, increase, single, increase, all the way around. So these are the first ones here. That's the first V. It's actually really tight. I don't know why. I think I'm definitely going to recommend going up a crochet hook size, because this 4 is just not happening. So single, and the next one over is an increase, which is 2 singles. And then single, and then an Yeah, this is just not working as great as it usually would. Something about this yarn combo with this hook, so we definitely need to go up a hook size. So increase, which is 2. But again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a little beak. Fasten off with the tail. Fold the beak in half lengthwise. So we cut it, start pulling. It says fold the beak in half lengthwise and attach it at round 10 between the eyes. So I think it means hot dog style. So it's a little thing like that, and you sew it on kind of wherever you'd like based on the picture. So it looks like that. So you know how to sew, but just for fun, we will start sewing it on. So this folded in half thing, wherever you like. That's the fun part. You get to kind of have some freedom. And literally with sewing and yarn, it's just kind of however you see fit, if that makes sense. Sometimes I kind of do little loop stitches, like a whip stitch on the outside or whatever. Sometimes I go in, out, in, out. It's whatever you like, in enough spots to hold the item on there. So you sew it kind of all the way around until that beak is attached. You can use both of the tails hanging off of it, sewing into this. And then you just, if you have a little tail at the end, you can tie a knot and then pull it through somewhere and cut it off. So you'll have an attached beak. So that's the beak. Okay, we're moving on to the wings, which is the last thing. Again, it starts with the magic loop. You'll get very good at these. They are probably the hardest part of the entire thing. Sometimes you have to make wiggle room to be able to pull a loop through. Okay, again, more background noise this time is toddlers. Okay, 4 single crochets into the loop. 1, 2. I forgot to keep it nice and loose. You might not have to because I'm going to recommend a size up hook, which will work better than this. But for now, using a 4, I need to keep this nice and loose. So there's 4 of those. Pull it tight lightly. Round 2 is increase times 4. So that means in all of those 4 stitches we just made, we're going to do an increase, which is 2 single crochets. So we start way back here at the first one and pull out a little bit so you can reach it. Okay. This is the hardest part. It can be tight. Again, just ask me and I can make all of these magic rings up for you if you want to practice trying to make the rest of it, because it's the hardest part. So 1, 2, into the first one, and it's increase times 4. So 1, 2, into the second one. I should have used a stitch marker, but I didn't, so I just have to keep track, but luckily it's only a few. We have 2 more of that. So 1, 2, into the third one, and one more time. 1, 2, into the fourth one. So that was round 2, which is increase times 4. For round 3, it's 8 single crochets. So I am going to use the stitch markers here. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the first one. Okay, so 8 single crochets. 1, and then I'm going to put a crochet stitch marker in, and then just single crochet all the way around, which should be 7 more. So 1. That was a long, kind of stretched out, funny looking stitch. So I know number 2 is over here. 3. Sometimes you just have to pull it apart a little bit and see where you can find the next V, if that makes sense. So there's something coming out of that V, so I know it's this next one over. For 4. 5. 6. Where am I? 5. 6. See, I've crocheted a long time and it's not always easy to find where you're going. Sometimes it's best to just go back after and count, and as long as you're close on the number of stitches, it doesn't matter exactly where they're placed, if that makes sense. Your goal is just having the right number of stitches. So that was 8. So fasten off with the long tail. Don't stuff. I don't know how you would stuff. It's not like it's a closed structure. That makes no sense. Flatten the wing and slip stitch the opening closed. We will see what that means. So we leave a tail, fasten off. Let's take this guy out. So mine looks like this. I guess it has a little bit of an edge. Yeah, that should be on the inside because that's the backwards of it. So I'm going to flip it. Flatten the wing in half. Sorry, I'm trying to figure this out right along with you. Yarn over, pull the yarn through both stitches and loop on your hook. Oh, just slip stitch down the whole thing and then attach it on. Well, that's much easier. So you're just sewing it down. They're making it more confusing than it needs to be. You can do it like this. Slip stitch, so in through both sides with it nice and flat. Yarn over and pull through both sides. So you put in, basically it's the same thing as sewing it together. It's going to be easier to sew it together. Let's sew it together. So you flatten the wing thing down and you just start sewing it together from one side to the other. Ignore the instructions, I think this is easier. So you sew it together all the way down so the puffy wing is a flat wing. And then it just says attach it below the beak on each side. So whichever way you think a wing would face, I think the puffy goes that way, or does the puffy go back? However you like your wing. You're going to take the long tail, and just like the other thing, you're just going to start sewing it onto your critter. And then once it's sewn on both sides, well, obviously you need to make 2 wings, sew everything in, tie off, cut off yarn, and then you have your little critter. And that is the basics of following a pattern. Again, this site is very helpful for the different types of stitches, what to do. Make sure you use enough stuffing inside. This is definitely not enough. I'm now seeing my eyes probably should have been slightly closer together, but you get to play around with it and obviously ask me all the questions that you have as we go. And there you go. Hope you have fun.